News through the week, Cory Bernardi, now part of One Nation. The former Liberal senator is back in the political ring. Have a listen to the new pitch. Cory Bernardi joining One Nation, and this posted online.
If you really want to live happily and safely, then you need an alternative to the major parties. And One Nation is the only alternative. This is exactly what Pauline Hanson warned us of decades ago. She said, we need One Nation. And it's true, we should be One Nation because we're stronger as one, and it's got to be our nation. And that's why One Nation needs to be something different and is something different.
And here is Cory Bernardi. Good morning.
Good morning, Luke. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. What are you thinking here? I thought the political thing was just a distant memory and you were getting on with a fantastic life, but the temptation was too great, was it?
Well, you're right on all counts. I was getting on with a fantastic life, but I looked around, Luke, and I realised the country was getting worse. Wherever you looked, the uni parties, as I call them, the Liberal Labor Party, were seeking to divide us up into a nation of tribes or special interest groups or special victims groups, as I like to refer to them. They were damaging the lives of ordinary Australians, and I also realised, being in business, that there's just so many impediments that are imposed by governments. And then it came to me, I thought, well, Cory, it's no good complaining about it. You can live your life, but whatever experience you have and whatever strengths you have and whatever resilience you have, you better get back into the arena. And so I joined One Nation last year. I supported their campaign. I, rekindled our friendship with Pauline Hanson, and here we are today. I'm trying to save South Australia because we haven't got an opposition down here. What we have is a uni-party state and an all-dominant premier who I think needs to be held to account. You know what?
So much in that. I couldn't agree more about the uni party. And I think, we've spent a lot of time trying to understand, is this, do people want more right-wing politics or left-wing politics or more centrist? I reckon, mate, we've landed on people just want to see things done. They want a fair go. And this is not necessarily left versus right. This is competency. And this is big ideas versus the same ideas. Isn't that a big part of it?
I think it's a massive part of it. The old tribal politics is left versus right is really just, a legacy system for a reducing number of people.
Yeah.
People just want a better life for themselves, and they look back and they go, hang on, we've trusted these blokes, mostly blokes, for the last 2 or 3 decades. And what's the result? We're paying more taxes, we've got more people on welfare, our cities are overcrowded, our regional areas are neglected. We're not getting the services or the responsibility and accountability we want. And let me give you one example. Right? In South Australia, we've actually got a voice to the parliament. Now, this is despite the fact that Albanese's voice to the parliament was a complete shambles and rejected in every single state. We've got one here. No one can tell me what it's ultimately meant to do except be some sort of tokenism to an Aboriginal community. But it's costing us millions of dollars a year. And you're thinking, wow, we've got a $50 billion, we're going to have a close to $50 billion state debt, second worst per state product, next only to Victoria. And this is what their focus is. While people don't have homes, they can't build businesses, we're ramping people on ambulances. And this sort of stuff is common right across the country. And Pauline Hanson's the only one, in my view, who is out there, who's been saying consistently the things that people want to hear from their politicians. She's identified the problems over 3 decades, said, you guys are making a mess of it. And I think the public have finally woken up and said, we've had a gutsful, we've had enough. We want some plain speaking, some people to go in and fight for us. And, Luke, in my 15 years in federal politics, I don't mind having a bit of a fight, and I'll speak up for all the things that I believe in.
Well, and mate, you've been consistent from day one, I have to say. For those that think that we might see you in the federal parliament, this is all about the South Australian Parliament, right?
Yeah, it is. The opportunity here is to try and build One Nation in this state into a viable and effective opposition, and then ultimately try and turn it into an alternative government and win the Treasury benches. But, it's a labour of love for me. I don't need anything out of this. I just want to make sure that our state here is going to do better. And you know what? If I can build out the organisation here, if I can help make it successful, well, that's going to produce better federal members. It's going to produce better senators coming from this state. And hopefully that'll translate into the federal arena as well.
How do we end up with the train wreck that is the now federal opposition, and the thing formerly known as a coalition? Did you see this coming when you were a member of the Liberal Party?
Well, Luke, I don't mind saying I did. I mean, Blind Freddy could see it coming if they wanted to look. You realise that Malcolm Turnbull's ascension, in which a bunch of people, including Conservative members of Parliament, overthrew a first-term Prime Minister, Tony Abbott, who was imperfect to say the least, but nonetheless, they repeated the mistakes of the Rudd-Gillard-Rudd era. Turnbull gets in, and who's not a believer in anything except Team Malcolm, leads them to a terrible election result where they lost 1 million votes and had nothing to answer and how we're going to win them back. It's all about, now, in my opinion, people who go into federal politics, it's more about what they can get out of it rather than what they can put into it. I want a title. I want to atone for an unhappy childhood. I want people to respect me. I want the salary, whatever it is. Most of them are linked in some way to, some lobbyist or someone who controls their pre-selection, and so they become economic units for these power brokers behind the scenes. And the end result is they're not prepared to do or say anything that might buck the system. It's all about going along for the ride, feathering their own nest, and they don't care about the people of Australia. This is the fundamental problem. They do not care about the outcomes for the people of Australia, only the outcomes for themselves and how close they can get to the reins of power.
The polls look good, but I think the polls look good for Peter Dutton, only a few months out from the last federal, so there's a way to go, but you've been around politics for a while. What do you make of the One Nation machine? Is it impressive or capable enough to get the job done and to keep the numbers where they are now, which are extraordinary, obviously?
Yeah, I have to say I'm really impressed with the machinery behind it, but mostly because it's just chock-a-block full of volunteers who want to really do a positive thing. And look, the opinion polls, the formal opinion polls are one thing, but I live in regional Australia, in South Australia, and I walk along the beach, and even before I was announced as the leader of One Nation down here, people would stop and want to talk politics in the street, and they would volunteer. They would say, I'm sick of the major parties. They're both hopeless. I'm going with Pauline, or I'm voting with One Nation. And that, to me, is a microcosm of Australia. People are motivated now to say, hey, things are absolutely wrong. We need to have a fresh start. Somehow we've got to try and fix it. And you know what? I need someone to go into bat for me in the federal parliament. And to them, that's Pauline Hanson, it's Barnaby Joyce, it's Cory Bernardi, and I hope there's a whole bunch of others that are going to come along that'll speak without fear and favour to get things done and remind the parties of their better selves and what really it's meant to be about, and that's the people of Australia.
I get a sense from my listeners, mate, exactly that. Everyone wants a bit of hope, but we want the big idea. That seems not to be the big idea. Everything is focus grouped, and as I said before, there's words and then there's delivery, and the gap between the two is absolutely huge. And I think partly because of that, people are saying, righto, we're done with the uni parties. We've tried it. Now it's time, and they're so open to supporting someone else, and that someone else, I'm sure, or something else, is One Nation. And mate, if you're elected and do a good job, then for lots of people that will be looking on and seeing a functional One Nation opposition, if that's what it is in South Australia, that could easily solidify support around the country. So you've got a pretty important job to do here.
Oh, yeah, I'm not underestimating how important it is and hopefully how it will springboard One Nation into other states as well. Let's talk about that big idea for a second there, Luke. Right, the greatest thing that people want to talk about in this country is immigration, because the policy is actually doing us a huge disservice, right? But the major parties will not want to touch it because they're accused of being racist, but also they understand this is an economic Ponzi scheme. They need more people to come in every single year because our real productive economy is faltering thanks to the Liberal and Labor Party policies. And so they bring more people in to try and stimulate demand, but that puts incredible pressure on housing prices, on hospitals, on all our infrastructure services, the availability of rental accommodation, you name it. Everything stems back to immigration policy. And the only person who's actually prepared to talk about it, who is prepared to say, no, we need to slash migration in this country. We need to be more selective about who's coming in, why they're coming in, and what benefits they're going to get when they get here. We need more contributors to Team Australia rather than, the loafers or the sponges. And is Pauline Hanson. But most things come back to that big idea. And then you can go down the whole track of where's support for business. And when I say support for business, not giving the money to your preferred green energy scheme, but I'm talking about cutting red and green and blue and black tape, making sure they can go out and employ people, making sure that Australians are expected to work rather than sit on the NDIS or welfare. Yeah. This is the greatest travesty in this country. We're becoming the indolent country where fewer people are working than are sitting around getting paid by government for one scheme or another. Yeah. It's just wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong. And the aged care changes look like they're going to create another NDIS. Mate, I have to ask you, John Howard hasn't missed. He said you're desperate for recognition. I'm sure you and I have great respect and admiration for Mr. Howard. And a lot of me says I reckon you would too. I don't know where these comments come from. Do you?
Well, I do have respect for Mr. Howard. He was a Prime Minister that I thought has been the beacon of stability over the last 3 decades anyway, because it's been hopeless since. But, look, Mr. Howard comes out when the Liberal Party campaign is on its death knell. Unfortunately, I regret the fact the Liberal Party hasn't got a hero since John Howard left. And so you've got a man who has a great history but has supported every Liberal leader, no matter how bad they are, who supported every Liberal coalition government, no matter how bad they are. They can do no wrong. And, of course, he sees the party that he's devoted his life to under enormous siege because they're hopeless. But he can't say they're hopeless. So instead of that, he's got to say, well, one nation are the party of protest. Hey, that's may be how it started. But right now, they're the party of alternative government for so many in this country. They're the preferred party over the Liberal Party. And for me, desperate for attention. I don't need attention. I've had a lifetime of attention during my time in federal parliament. I just want to go out there and try and make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah, well, that's the Cory Bernardi. I know. Good on you, mate. Great to talk. Good luck. We'll keep in touch, eh?
Thanks, Luke. All the best.
Yeah, you too.